Action! I'd like to introduce to you my friend Paula. I've known her for a number of years. She and her husband Roger celebrated their 5th wedding anniversary last week. Right? They hail from Watertown and come here and celebrate worship of Jesus a couple times a month, 2 or 3 times a month, and switch between here and Watertown. And when I passed out the sheets of people who may want to share a story or talk about Jesus in their lives, Paula was very quick to sign up because she has a story that she would like to share. And so I'd like to introduce to you my friend Paula, and it's all yours.
Thank you so much. Yes, when Pastor Pat distributed the sign-up sheet, and I noticed there was a blank space for someone to give a talk, I thought maybe it was a typo. So I checked it and went, really? I can get up and talk? I would love to talk. And I signed up for that. And he said, sure. So I did. You may know Roger, my husband. He probably knows some of you through the Via di Cristo. As Pat said, we kind of alternate. It's between here and Oconomowoc. So,
My bad.
Well, that's okay, because I'm a sign language interpreter, and I interpret for them on the 1st and 3rd Sunday. So we split. So. About 2 weeks ago at Easter, when I mentioned to my parents that I would be speaking here at Zion, my mom said, "What's your topic?" And I said, "Well, how the Apostle Paul and how myself are the same." And my mom started to laugh. and you have to admit it's a fairly audacious claim to say that you are in any way like the Apostle Paul, but we do have one thing in common. We are both very proud people, and we had to be humbled in order for God to make us useful. So I said to my mom, wait, the topic is really humility, how Paul and Paula are alike. I'm going to try to get through without crying, but I brought Kleenexes. If any of you need a Kleenex, let me know. But don't use these on your glasses. They have the kind of lotion and the glasses. Okay, then, how Paul and I were alike in being proud. We were very self-confident. Very confident in our own heritage, confidence in our own education, our own achievement, our own status, confidence in ourselves, confidence in myself. In Philippians 3:5, Paul lists all his accolades, and I'll go through those with you in just a minute. And God had to strip him of his destructive self-righteousness. He was killing people, and that needed to stop, particularly Christians who he was killing. And I have a story of my own that parallels him in some way. And as I said, I brought Kleenexes. Paul was circumcised on the 8th day. Well, I was baptized as an infant. He had his infant rite. I had my infant ritual. He was from the people of Israel, tribe of Benjamin, while I'm from the people of Martin Luther, the proud German heritage. And my family is also very proud in their heritage. In my immediate family and extended family, I have teachers and lawyers and judges. So I had a very proud German Lutheran heritage, very proud family heritage from which I came. Paul was the Hebrew of Hebrews. Well, I mentioned his are synod, right? He knew the law inside and out, and in addition to memorizing lots of Bible verses, I memorized Luther's catechism, and I sort of had a gift, kind of like a photographic memory in a way. I could look at text on a page and sort of photograph in my head and then be able to just sort of read it when I was asked to recite it to the pastor. We had to memorize a lot of stuff, and it was a very unique gift of mine. I don't have it as much anymore, I'm getting older, but back then I could just sort of memorize a page by looking at it as sort of a photographic memory, so that memory work was really pretty easy for me. Paul had a zeal for his religious belief to the point where he murdered people. I had developed a hatred that, you know, Jesus says if you hate somebody, you may as well have murdered them. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go on. Additional qualifications. I graduated from a Lutheran university, Valparaiso. One of the big events there was the homecoming game, because just down the road from Valparaiso is Orville Redenbacher's popcorn fields. And he would roll into homecoming at Valparaiso with the world's largest popcorn wall every year. We had a lot of fun with that. I graduated there with distinction. I got my master's degree in Milwaukee, UW-Milwaukee, with a 3.95 GPA. Missed 4.0 because I had to take statistics and I'm not that good in math. And I'm currently a nationally certified sign language interpreter. I can do American Sign Language, I can do Sign English, and been doing that for quite a while, well qualified. For quite a while, I worked as a college professor. I achieved tenure, which meant I could do whatever I wanted to do. Which was not a good thing, you'll see in a minute. I won the Ohio Association of Two-Year Colleges Teacher of the Year Award. Thank you very much. And at that time, well, Sinclair is actually quite a nice college. They're quite nice. And they had built this huge facility for distance learning. That was the new wave. And in Ohio, the interpreting programs were south, Dayton, Cincinnati, but there was a big population up north, Cleveland and Toledo, that had no access to interpreting. So when they set up this huge distance learning facility, I thought, okay, I'll broadcast to Cleveland and Toledo, which I did. And I was really a pioneer there. It seemed some of the other professors were a little timid about taking that on, but I wasn't. And they had this huge facility with giant screens. There were 3 giant screens behind me. I would be sort of up like this, with this auditorium of students behind me. And I would broadcast one, you can see the Cleveland people, one you can see the Toledo people, and then on the first screen I would put me. And where it says the wave there, what I figured out was, at just the right time when we were connecting to Cleveland and Toledo, if I put myself on the first screen and the 2 sites on the other screen, and I stood on the first screen and did this, on the next 2, it followed sequentially, and I could do the wave all by myself. And I did that because I could. It was one of those, well, I'm tenured and you've given me $1 million of worth of equipment, I think I'll do the wave. Very self-confident, very self-righteous, and quite frankly at the top of my game. I'm going to ask Roger to lead us in a sing-along right now, if you don't mind. And please join in. If you know this tune, you will date yourself. If you don't know the tune, just sing along anyway.
Oh, 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 Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. I can't wait to look in the mirror. I get there looking each day to know who He is, to love me. I must be a heck of a man. Oh, Lord, it's hard to be humble
yeah, okay, go ahead. Thank you, Sandy. He knows my presentation better than me. In 2 Corinthians, Paul says that he was shipwrecked 3 times, and once he was adrift all night and all day. And I was wrecked 3 times as well, and the first 2 happened within 30 seconds of each other. So here comes the hatred part that I was mentioning earlier. I had been married at that point for 17 years. I had a 14-year-old son, Jacob, and a 12-year-old daughter, Sarah. And when I got married, I didn't really know what alcoholism was. We went out for the Friday fish fry, and my dad had his 2 cans of Old Style, and my mom had her 1 brandy and 7-Up. And that's pretty much what I knew of alcohol, and I didn't drink a whole lot, and kids in college didn't drink a lot, but I really didn't understand alcoholism. And I was married 6 months before I realized I had married an alcoholic. And I learned what a blackout is. Before I thought it was just a person who passes out and they're asleep, but that's not what a blackout is. This person is up and doing stuff. They just have no idea what they're doing. And you tell them the next day what they did, and they don't have a clue. And I could always tell when this was coming on. I learned to watch his eyes, because it was like hell. I could see like a demon in his eyes. It wasn't the person that I married anymore. The eyes were different. To the point where at one point, he was in a car accident, totally wrecked the car. I picked him up from jail, and he had no idea why he was in jail. He had no idea it was an accident, didn't know that he had totaled the car, not a clue. But he was up driving around. So I learned what a blackout was as compared to passing out. But I had signed up for better or for worse, and I figured, well, surely this is the worst, and it will just has to get better. And I stuck with it for 17 years. Would have stuck with it longer, but the day after Easter 2005, he came into the bedroom and said, "I don't like you. I don't want to be with you. I'm leaving." Shipwreck number 1.
It's okay, Paula.
Go ahead. I became very, very angry. And my memory verses came back to my mind. And one of the first ones that came to my mind was, "O Lord, that thou wouldst slay the wicked, that men of blood would depart from me. Men who maliciously defy thee and lift themselves up against thee for evil. I not hate them that hate thee, do not loathe them that rise up against thee. I hate them with perfect hatred." Because 30 seconds later he said, "Oh, and by the way, I'm HIV positive. Go get yourself checked." So I scooped up my children and I came back to Wisconsin on a native cheesehead. I scooped up my 14-year-old son and my 12-year-old girl and came back. And I took a 6-month walk through the valley of the shadow of death, because it takes 6 months to get your confirmation if you're HIV positive or not. And there's a lot of rumor and stuff out there. Oh, it'll show up a year later. Blah, blah, blah. That's not true. You get a baseline. 3 months later, you get checked again. And if it's negative, that's a good sign. But some people slip through at 3 months. So then at 6 months, you get your definitive answer. And I got my definitive answer, negative. I don't have HIV, hallelujah, praise the Lord. And it was right before Christmas. And said that was the best Christmas present I ever had. But it was a 6-month walk through the valley of the shadow of death. So took a stroll through there. And I got even angrier then. And once again, my memory verses come to mind, and it says, leave the wrath for God, vengeance is mine, I will repay. But I decided I would put a spin on it. Like, okay, vengeance is yours. Use me, Lord. Use me. Could I not be the instrument of your vengeance? Use me, Lord. Which he didn't do. I attend a Bible study in Watertown, and my attendance is sporadic at best. And I hadn't gone for a long time, and I showed up for Bible study, and they called me out on it. This is what we studied that evening. If anyone says, I love God and hates his brother, he's a liar. And they seriously called me out on my hatred. And I think that's the type of Bible study I want to be in. One that will call you out. But then shipwreck number 3 hit. So, clinging to the broken pieces of my family, I relocated, and God blessed me with Mr. Schrader to help me and support me through this. Thank you. My son Jacob couldn't take it. So he killed himself. And when Paul got thrown down on the road to Damascus, I got thrown down. You know, there's all the shock and the disbelief, and then there's the funeral and all the hubbub and coming and going and fooding and this and that and arrangements and flowers and music. But then about a month later, it's all gone, and everyone's gone, and you're left alone with yourself and that. And I found myself on the bedroom floor, clutching my Bible, just devastated, sobbing horribly. And I said, God, I know you can hear me, and I know you care about me. Please talk to me. And I closed my eyes, opened up my Bible, and stuck my finger in it. And I came up with Jeremiah 30:10. That's where my finger landed, with total, eyes closed, random. And this is what the verse was. Fear not, O Jacob, my servant, says the Lord, for I will save you from afar. Jacob shall return and have quiet and ease, and no one will make him afraid. And I just was so grateful to God to tell me, your son is all right. I've got him. No one is going to make him afraid ever again. And every time that just infuriating grief and anger, I try to go right back to Jeremiah 30:10. You've got my son. You've got him. And I just came to the point where I had to say, God, you know better than I do. Because the creator and sustainer of the universe, that our planet is balanced so carefully. If it spins one way or another too much, it's havoc. We're so carefully balanced, and the whole universe is just so created and sustained. A God that big could jam a gun, right? But he didn't. So I came around to the realization that, God, you know better than I. And I'm the clay, you're the potter. As the clay, do I tell you what to do with this clay, with that clay? No, I don't tell you what to do. And I realized I needed to shift my confidence from myself over to confidence in the potter, rather than my self-confidence. Paul says he learned to be content in all circumstances. I'm not there yet. But I constantly try to keep this in the front of my mind. Jesus forgave us. And my niece pointed out to me, every time I say I hate that person, I hate what he set in motion, I hate the selfishness, every time I do that, I drive those nails into Jesus' hands, I drive those nails into his feet one more time. I don't want to give up my right to myself, but I think about what Jesus gave up, and I'm a wretch, and all the self-righteousness is worth nothing. I'm a wretch, and until I grab hold of what a wretch I really am, then there's no way I can forgive anybody else. So I'm in the work in progress, under construction, trying to always come back to that. I'm a wretch, I'm no better than anybody else, and work on this continual process of forgiveness, and God, you know better than I. Just to wrap it up, I'm going to quote you Stephen Curtis Chapman, who says, you can run with the big dogs, you can fly with the eagles, and you can jump through all the hoops, climb your ladder to the top, but when it all comes down, it comes down to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God.
Amen.